The air felt different that morning, cold and sharp, like something was about to change. I had no idea how much that day would mark the beginning of a new chapter in my life. "From now on, this is your new home," my father said, his voice flat and emotionless, as if this was just another decision he had to make. I stood there, frozen, trying to process what he had just said. I hadn't been prepared for this. One moment, I had been at home, dealing with my illness like usual. The next, I was shoved into the back seat of the car, driven out without so much as a warning, and dropped off at my aunt's house. "Your father said he couldn't pay for your medical bills anymore," my aunt explained softly as she took me inside. "Not with your sister's study abroad costs, but don't worry, you're safe here." I could hardly believe it. I didn't know how to react. My father had made the decision for me without even asking how I felt. It wasn't just the medical bills. It was like I had become invisible in my own family. Just a burden, an obstacle they had no time to care for anymore. My father's words echoed in my mind as I stood there in my aunt's living room. "We don't need a sick person." I tried to hold back the tears, but they came anyway, hot and uncontrollable. I had been abandoned, and I felt like a fool for not seeing it coming. My aunt, though, welcomed me with open arms. She didn't see me as a problem, as my father did. She saw me as her family, even though she wasn't my biological parent. But in that moment, she felt more like family than anyone else. She gently wiped my tears away and said, "You're safe now, Sonia. We'll take care of you. You're our child now." It wasn't much, but it was enough to make me feel something like hope again. But the story didn't end there. My life, the life I had known, began to unravel, and I had to adjust to a new reality. I had always been the sick child, the one who couldn't join in on the games, the one who had to sit out during gym class. My illness had controlled every aspect of my life. Seizures, dizziness, and constant visits to the hospital were just part of my normal routine. The doctors said it was stress that triggered the seizures, and my parents, in their overprotectiveness, made sure I avoided anything that might cause stress. That meant no exercise, no sports, and no normal childhood. Meanwhile, my younger sister, Claire, was the opposite. She was healthy, strong, and filled with energy. She excelled in everything she did, and our parents were always proud of her. She was the star, the one who carried all their hopes. Claire loved basketball, and she poured her heart into it. She joined a local basketball club, quickly rose through the ranks, and eventually played for one of the top teams. She was talented, and it was clear from a young age that she would go far. As for me, I watched from the sidelines, unable to participate. But even though I couldn't join her, I was proud of Claire. I couldn't help but feel a little envious, too. How could I not? She had everything. She was everything our parents wanted me to be. But even as I tried to support her, I began to feel the strain between us. My parents treated Claire like a queen, giving her everything she wanted: clothes, food, attention. I, on the other hand, got the scraps. Leftovers, simple bread and instant soup. It hurt, but I learned to live with it. "Come on, Sonia, play basketball with me," Claire would say, holding the ball in her hands and looking up at me with those hopeful eyes. I always had to turn her down. "Sorry, Claire, I can't. I'm not allowed to play." But Claire wasn't the type to give up. "We can still pass the ball, right?" she'd ask, trying to get me involved. I thought I could handle a simple game of catch, but when I reached for the ball, my mother's voice rang out, sharp and loud. "Sonia, don't. You never know when you might have a seizure. You can't risk it." The force in her voice startled both Claire and me. Claire froze, the ball dropping from her hands. My mother calmly picked it up and handed it back to Claire, smiling like nothing had happened. It was as if I didn't even matter. I wasn't allowed to enjoy simple things like passing a basketball with my sister, things that any other family would take for granted. As the years passed, the gap between me and Claire grew wider. I spent more time with my aunt and uncle, who, despite their own busy lives, always made me feel welcome. They had no children of their own, so I became their focus. They treated me like their own daughter, with love and kindness that I didn't get at home. They didn't see my illness as something to be ashamed of. They accepted me fully, and it made all the difference. One summer, after I had spent most of my first year of high school with them, I was excited for the break. My father drove me there with a suitcase full of clothes and my usual hopes for a peaceful time away. But when we arrived at my aunt's house, I could tell something was off. My father had a strange look in his eyes, a look I couldn't quite place. As soon as we entered the house, he turned to me with a forced smile and said, "From now on, Sonia, this is your new home." I stood frozen. What was he talking about? "You're no longer needed at our place," my father continued, not bothering to explain further. "We don't have room for a sick person." I was stunned. My world shattered in that moment. This wasn't just a visit. This was permanent. My father had given me away. He had abandoned me. "Your sister's studying abroad, and that's more important," my father added. "We can't afford both. You're on your own now." I tried to speak, but the words wouldn't come. My aunt and uncle tried to talk to my father, but he wouldn't listen. He had made up his mind. It was done. As I stood there in shock, my aunt whispered gently, "Sonia, we'll take care of you. You're our daughter now." I couldn't believe what I was hearing, but deep down, something shifted in me. This was my chance for a new life. Maybe this was where I truly belonged. Years passed, and my life with my aunt and uncle became a source of peace and stability. I no longer had to worry about my health in the same way. With their support, I found the courage to participate in things I never thought possible. I joined the school's trading card club and began to develop a passion for the game. My health improved, and I felt stronger than ever. I pushed myself, driven by the desire to repay my aunt and uncle for their love and care. My skills in trading cards grew, and by the time I reached high school, I was already recognized as a top player. But even as I succeeded, I couldn't forget about Claire, my sister, the girl I had once envied. I hadn't seen her in years, but one day she showed up at my aunt's house. She looked different, older, worn out, and her eyes were filled with sadness. "Sonia," she whispered, her voice trembling. I ran away. I couldn't take it anymore. I was shocked. My sister, the one who had everything, had run away. It didn't make sense. What had happened? Claire's voice broke as she explained everything. Our parents had forced her into a life she didn't want, pushing her to pursue basketball even after she had grown tired of it. They controlled her every move, and when she tried to speak up, they shut her down. Eventually, she couldn't take it any longer and left. I listened in disbelief. I had been so focused on my own struggles that I hadn't even realized what Claire had gone through. I promised to help her, to protect her from the same fate I had escaped. We made a plan. We would take on our parents together. That Christmas, I returned to my parents' house for the first time in years. My heart raced as I pressed the doorbell, unsure of what I was walking into. When the door opened, I was met with smiles. Forced, fake smiles. "We've been waiting for you, Sonia," my father said, his voice thick with insincerity. "Welcome back." I couldn't believe it. These people, my parents, were acting like nothing had ever happened. Like they hadn't abandoned me. Like they hadn't thrown me away. "You're the queen of trading cards now," my mother said, her voice dripping with false pride. "We're so proud of you." I couldn't take it anymore. "You don't care about me," I shouted, the words finally pouring out. You only care about your image. You abandoned me, and now you're trying to take credit for my success. Well, I'm done." They were stunned. They didn't know how to react. But it didn't matter. I was no longer the scared, invisible girl who would take anything they gave me. I was stronger now, and with Claire by my side, I knew I could fight back. In the end, it wasn't about them anymore. It was about me and the people who truly cared for me. I had found a new family, and together we were unstoppable.